Hello orchid fans, what's up? Welcome back to my channel, and it's repot time. I want to repot my Bulbophyllum lepidum. It's got new growths right now, and it's got 4 in total. It just finished blooming, so I thought this will be a perfect time to get it repotted. This plant is repotted in bark and sphagnum moss mix, and I try to get away from moss. I mean, this plant seemed to quite like it because it likes moisture, but I think it would be good to get it repotted. And yeah, I'm actually thinking to change the setup on it as well. I'll keep it in the same pot, but I want to try leca and kind of semi-hydro. So yeah, let's get to work. So let me unpot this guy and let's see what we've got in the pot. Last season it grew, I think 5 maybe growths, and one of them bloomed, but I don't know which one, if it was like the prior year's growth, like a 2 years growth, or prior years. But yeah, one of them bloomed, and I think it was its first bloom as well, definitely for me. But I only had this plant since I think May or June, or maybe July, August last year. So I didn't have it long, but I don't think it bloomed before. So yeah, because it was a pretty young plant, but really vigorous, grown really well. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. So the root system is very fine and very, it's got very thin roots. It's a branching root system, so that's good. And although it pushed out so many new growths, I could barely see them coming through the sides of the pot or at the bottom of the pot. I only started seeing them recently, but as you can see, it's a pretty good root system. It's got quite a lot of new roots. And yeah, you've probably noticed I took it out of the shallow pot. As you can see, this bulbo is growing, it's growing very wide. It's got very long rhizomes. So for example, even this new growth here is coming out of this bulb. So you can see the rhizome is going all the way up here and then pushing out. So yeah, it's got quite big gaps between the growths. But given that it's got 4 new growths right now, it means it's got at least 4 directions of growth. So as I say, it's definitely a very vigorous plant. And I thought, yeah, it might be a good time to repot it now before those new growths establish the roots. Yeah, see all this moss? I really need to get rid of it. I don't want to grow things in moss anymore. I mean, I rotted quite a few plants last autumn. When the weather started getting cooler, a few plants really objected to having moss in the pots because it just didn't dry out as fast anymore. And yeah, the roots just did not like that whatsoever. Summer was okay, it was pretty fine, but I think all the plants were in active growth, plus the weather was warmer, so the pots were drying out quicker, plus the roots took more water as well because it was an active growth. And then when autumn came and plants started to kind of going to sleep and slow down on the growth, and the weather got a bit colder, so the water didn't evaporate as fast as well. It really made a difference. So the ones that kind of rotted, I started repotting them pretty much straight away, so that, obviously I didn't want to perpetuate the problem. But the ones that are kind of didn't rot, I just kept them where they are, just to kind of see what's gonna happen. And as I say, bulbo, I always try to kind of keep it as wet as, well, not as wet, but moist and environment for the roots, and it seemed to really enjoy that. So because it doesn't like to dry out, at least here in my environment, it quite enjoyed having that moss. So that's why I want to move it in leca. I was thinking first to maybe move it in bark alone, but bark will dry out quite quickly, and this plant will probably sit in a dry pot quite often, and given that it doesn't like it, I'm thinking maybe use leca, because leca doesn't seem to be drying out in my environment at all. Even if I don't have a water reservoir, it still stays pretty moist for quite a long time, so I think it might work pretty well. So that's it unpotted. As you can see, like, pretty good root system. I don't think I'm gonna cut any roots off. Because it's such a fine root system as well, it's quite difficult to say exactly which roots are good and which ones are dead. And even if a couple roots will stay on it that are no longer kind of viable, I don't think it's really gonna make a big difference. So yeah, I'll keep them all on, especially, you know, when it's a branching root system. Even when the root looks dead, it starts to kind of branch out. So yeah, I think I'll leave it. The only thing I'll do is I will cut, there is a small rhizome right here. Let me see if I can show you. So the rhizome right here, you see it's quite long and there is nothing on it. So I'll just cut that off so that we don't have it on here. And yeah, when I tried to, oh, you know what? I think I found another flower spike. Look at that. I think that's another flower spike. I did not see that in the pot. Let me see if there is more. I mean, it is possible it's gonna blast now, but especially when I'm changing the setup. But we'll see. I already saw one bloom, so I'm happy. I didn't expect it to bloom anymore this year, so if it will blast, I mean, I would love to see it bloom again. The flowers are really, really pretty, but if it blasts, not a big deal. I can live with that. So yeah, let me just run it under the tap and just really wash out all of this bark and moss and all this debris, because if I want to put it in inorganic media, I want to try and get rid of all this kind of rubbish as much as possible. And I'll clean the pot and all of this, and I'll be back in a sec. I'm back. Got my plant cleaned up and my pot, and in preparation of leca, I pulled this out of the bucket because I just washed it again and it was in a very cold water, so I thought I'll maybe just leave it here for a little bit so it warms up, so that, you know, I don't freeze the plant. I put the microfiber through as well this time. I didn't have it before because I had a moss layer at the bottom of this pot, and when I was watering, I would leave a little bit water in this bowl, and even though there was no moss kind of sticking out through the holes, it would still suck up the water, you know, through the bottom all the way up into the pot, so the pot would stay quite moist. Obviously leca, I don't think it would be able to really do that, because it's, you know, it is round, so even if it kind of goes right against the hole, it's just too big to be able to touch the bottom of the bowl to be able to wick the water. So I only put one microfiber through. I'm honestly finding that that's quite well, you know, it's enough for me, and I'm not gonna keep loads of water in this bowl. It's just gonna be a little bit, so it might go maybe up to this first layer of ventilation holes, probably maybe even a bit lower. I'm sure it's gonna be enough. As I say, my leca usually stays pretty moist throughout the period, so I'll put a little bit at the bottom. I'm not gonna go too wild on it, because even though this root system is pretty shallow, there were a couple roots that were already sitting at the bottom of the spot, so, you know, I don't want to kind of break it and stuff. So I'm going to reposition this plant a little bit as well. I didn't really show you, but it was kind of sitting towards the back like that. So this whole, like half of this bowl was pretty much empty. But the new growths are coming through here and also over there. So I think it actually needs room at the back, whereas there is no new growths coming from here. So I think I'm gonna kind of push it towards the front. And yeah, and I will let this this end to kind of be almost like the middle of a pot, so it can grow in there. So yeah, let me just pour leca over and see what happens. I poured a little bit over. It's still not done, but I think I'm gonna add slow release fertilizer as well in the pot. It's just such a vigorous plant, and I don't feed my plants very much. Maybe I need to change that, to be honest. So I'll just add a couple beads. I mean, maybe 10 at the most. So I'm not gonna go crazy with it. But I think it might actually help. And I've also got garden lime here with me. I just recently, I think maybe 2 weekends ago, I added garden lime to all my pots, and it was in here as well. So I just want to add it in again because it wasn't completely gone yet. So yeah, let me keep going with leca. It's not very easy, this plant, because when I got it, it was potted up a little bit differently, and I was trying to get as many pseudobulbs or as many roots as possible into the pot. And what I ended up doing is kind of laying it on the side a little bit. So you can see that the older growths, they're kind of, you know, the leaves are going sideways, whereas the new growths, they're starting to kind of, they go straight up. So yeah, it looks a little bit weird, this plant, but even right now, it's you know, I'm trying to get as many roots in the media, because as I say, it is a very water-loving plant. So my humidity is pretty bad, so I you know, I need to get as many roots in the media as possible. On the other hand, if I try and get all the roots in, then I end up with some pseudobulbs being buried in the media. So for example, this one at the front, so right there, can you see how deep in it is? You can barely even see the pseudobulb. So I am a little bit worried. I will try and move some leca away so that this pseudobulb is kind of on top of the media, because again, you know, this leca is gonna be, I think, a bit more moist than bark. You know, if there was a couple bark chips on top, they would probably dry out and nothing would happen. But with leca, I am a little bit more worried that it can be more kind of prone to rotting. So I will make sure that none of my pseudobulbs are buried in, which means that, you know, some of the roots will end up aerial and just sticking out. So be it, not a big deal. So I've got my label in here already. This microfiber is already soaking wet just from the bark being wet as well. But that is it, basically. So that's my very first plant in leca alone. I have to say, a little bit scary. I have no idea if this will work or not. So yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see. I'll keep you guys updated. I will you know, I will do a separate video maybe after a month or a couple months to show you how this plant is doing. And yeah, and we'll see if it also blooms. Where is that flower spike? Okay, it looks like it's still intact. So it is still right there, this white little spot at the base. So yeah, let's hope for the best. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. And again, thanks very much for all your subscriptions and likes and comments. It really means a lot. It's such a great support that I'm getting. I really appreciate that. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.